Let's start with the date. It's the first Monday in October. And, for most people in Washington, D.C., it's just another autumn day. The leaves are turning, tourists are out.
Sure. It's a beautiful time of year in the city.
But if you're in the legal world, if you are part of the government, that day is, it's basically sacred. It's the official opening of the Supreme Court's new term. It's supposed to be about tradition, ceremony.
Right. It's the start of the season. The 9 justices come back to the bench.
It's the Super Bowl for lawyers, really.
Yeah.
But in the documents we're looking at today, this particular Monday, it doesn't feel like a celebration at all.
No, not even close. The feeling I got right from the first page was dread. It feels like the opening scene of a war movie, not a legal proceeding.
That's a perfect way to put it. The source material paints this picture of a city, and really a whole country that's it's a powder keg. It's on the absolute brink of something terrible.
And we're not talking about a few polite protesters with signs, are we? This is something else entirely. Oh, completely. The word the documents use is mob. A mob of 50,000 people surrounding the Supreme Court building.
50,000. Just try to picture that for a second. That's a professional sports stadium's worth of angry people, all packed into the streets around one building.
And it's not a unified group. That's what makes it so volatile. It's just chaos. The source material describes this incredible mix. You have Native Americans there in full battle dress. You've got loggers, farmers, people protesting taxes.
And then you have these groups that are just fundamentally opposed to each other, crammed together, pro-life activists screaming at pro-choice activists.
And that's before you even get to the really dark elements. The Klan is there. Actual Nazis, skinheads. They're not hiding in the shadows. They're operating openly in this crowd.
It's like every single simmering resentment in the country has just boiled over onto the steps of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, there's this one line in the background briefing that just stuck with me. It says that hatred has become America's favorite pastime. And it's not just talk. It's not just shouting.
No, it's escalated into real violence.
Serious violence. The documents listed out. Abortion clinics are being firebombed. Doctors who perform abortions are being targeted. One was attacked with acid in Florida. Gay bashing is happening in the streets. It's a really toxic and dangerous atmosphere.
So you've got this sea of rage, 50,000 strong, being held back by riot police. And in the middle of it all, sitting in that marble building, are just 9 people in black robes. It really, it sets the stage for what's about to happen.
It does. Because when you hear the premise that 2 Supreme Court justices were assassinated in one night, it sounds unbelievable. But when you read about this climate,
it starts to feel almost inevitable, doesn't it? Which makes you think the FBI must have been on high alert. They must have seen this coming.
They were completely swamped, overwhelmed. The numbers are staggering. In the 60 days leading up to this one Monday, the FBI logged over 200 specific threats against the court.
200 in 2 months.
Yeah, a new record. That's more than 3 credible death threats every single day. And when the volume is that high, you lose the signal and the noise. It becomes a security nightmare. How do you know which threat is real? Is it the guy screaming in the street, or is it the quiet one you never see?
And that is the terrifying irony of this whole story, isn't it? The threat didn't come from the 50,000-person mob. It came from the silence. It came from the shadows.
And in the span of just a few hours one night, 2 of those 9 justices are. They're just gone. Erased.
It's an event that completely upends the country overnight. I mean, losing 2 justices like that, it's unprecedented. It creates this enormous power vacuum.
And a mystery.
A huge mystery. So our mission in this deep dive is to unpack that night. We need to reconstruct the timeline, look at who these men were, and try to understand why they were so incredibly vulnerable. And of course, we need to look at the assassin who pulled it off.
The man known only as Khamel.
Right. So let's start with the targets themselves. Because Justice Rosenberg and Justice Jensen, you could not invent 2 more different people.
They are polar opposites. Age, ideology, personality, you name it. But they shared one fatal similarity.
Which was what?
They both, in their own unique ways, made it incredibly easy for someone to kill them.
Okay, let's start with Justice Abraham Rosenberg. The name itself it feels heavy, Yeah. He's the legend, the icon.
He is. He's 91 years old. Think about that for a moment. He's been on the court for decades. He's the last of the great liberal lions. But physically, the man is a wreck.
The description in the source material is just brutal. It doesn't pull any punches.
Not at all. He's paralyzed. He's literally strapped into his wheelchair. He has oxygen tubes in his nose just to breathe. He's nearly blind, mostly deaf. He's just physically, he is hanging on by a thread.
And there's that detail about how he actually works, how he writes his opinions. He can't use a typewriter. He can't really dictate clearly anymore.
So he uses a big, heavy felt tip marker in this pad of paper. And he scrawls out these landmark legal opinions in what the source describes as first-grader handwriting.
It's such a powerful image. This physically broken man scrawling these words that can change the entire country.
It's a pathetic image on one level, but intellectually, that scrawl is still the most powerful liberal voice in America. He's the icon of the left. But, and this is a really important distinction that documents make, he's not a liberal in the way we might think of one today.
What do you mean by that? He's not a party line guy.
Exactly. He is a hardcore, old-school civil libertarian. He believes in the absolute sanctity of the individual against the government, period.
So, for example, a modern liberal might be very in favor of things like gun control.
Right.
But Rosenberg, he's the opposite. And the source material gives us the perfect example to understand him, the case of Nash v. New Jersey. This case is everything. This is the one about the drug dealer with the assault rifle, right?
That's the one. You have this criminal, a man named Nash, and he's caught with an AK-47. New Jersey has a law banning weapons like that. The case goes all the way to the Supreme Court. 8 of the 9 justices vote to uphold the ban. They say, of course, a state can ban machine guns. It seems like common sense.
But not to Rosenberg.
Rosenberg is the lone dissenter. He writes this blistering dissent defending the drug dealer's right to own an AK-47.
Which sounds insane on the surface.
It does. But you have to understand his logic. He argues that the Second Amendment is absolute. It says shall not be infringed. For him, there are no exceptions. He personally hated guns, but he loved the Constitution more. His fear was that if you let the government take a machine gun from a criminal today,
they'll take a printing press from a newspaper tomorrow. That's his core belief. He has this mantra described in the text: government over business, the individual over government, the environment over everything. He's an absolutist. But that kind of thinking, that absolutism, it made him an island on the court, didn't it? The source mentions he was often writing these 8-to-1 dissents.
He was totally alone. But he would not quit. And this is the hubris, the tragic flaw that really defines him. He is 91 years old. He's dying by inches in that wheelchair. But he refuses to retire.
Because he can't stomach the idea of the current president appointing his replacement?
He's waiting for a Democrat in the White House. He despises the current administration. He particularly hates the Chief Justice, a man named Runyon, who he sees as a political hack. Rosenberg's attitude is basically, I will sit here and breathe this oxygen until I'm 105 if it keeps a right-winger from taking my seat.
He's holding on out of sheer spite, almost.
It's this death grip on power, fueled by ideology. And in his mind, he's daring them. The documents say he receives 80% of all death threats aimed at the court. 80%.
He is public enemy #1 for every fringe group out there. The Klan, the neo-Nazis, you name it.
And yet, and this is the part that is just so hard to wrap your head around, his personal security is a joke. It's basically non-existent.
Because he hates cops.
He loathes them. He has this deep, ingrained distrust of all law enforcement. He calls the FBI agents assigned to protect him snoops. He forbids them from setting foot inside his Georgetown home.
So you have the single most threatened man in the entire American government, and his security detail is forced to sit in their car down the street.
Yeah, just a couple of agents in a sedan, 50 feet away, drinking coffee and reading the paper. It's worse than that, even. He only allows one single protector to be on his property.
That's the Supreme Court police officer, Ferguson.
Right, a man named Ferguson, and even he isn't allowed inside. Rosenberg's rule is that Ferguson can sit in a chair outside the back door, but only from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
That's it.
That's it. Inside the house at night. It's just Rosenberg, who can't move, and his male nurse. There are no weapons in the house, no panic buttons, no alarms. It's a fortress of ideology with paper-thin walls.
He essentially let his stubbornness, his principles, completely override his basic survival instinct.
He absolutely did. He'd survived 91 years of battles. He thought his willpower alone was enough of a shield. It wasn't.
So that's our first victim, a lion in winter, a brilliant legal mind in a failing body whose own fierce independence made him the perfect soft target.
Precisely.
So now let's pivot to the second victim, Justice Glenn Jensen. And if Rosenberg is this, grandfather of the court, Jensen is like the problem child.
That's a good way to describe him. He's only 48 years old, which is incredibly young for a Supreme Court justice. He was the youngest appointment in history, actually.
But where Rosenberg is a legend, Jensen is seen as, well, the Chief Justice himself calls him an embarrassment.
That quote is just brutal, isn't it? He compares Jensen to a retarded child who needs constant supervision. It really shows you the level of frustration the establishment has with this guy.
Why, though? What did he do to earn that kind of contempt?
Well, he was appointed by a conservative president, and the expectation was that he would be a reliable conservative vote for the next 40 years. But he went rogue almost immediately. His voting record is erratic. It's all over the place.
So one day he's voting with the liberals, the next with the conservatives.
Exactly. One day he'll write an opinion protecting the environment that sounds like it could have come from Rosenberg. The next, he'll side with, as the source puts it, the white supremacists on a free speech case. There's no rhyme or reason to it. He's a complete wild card.
So is that just him being a brilliant, independent legal mind? Or is there something else at play?
The source material strongly suggests it's rooted in his personal turmoil. We learn that Jensen is being treated for severe depression. He's on Prozac. He's deeply unhappy and isolated on the court. But the core of his vulnerability, the thing that truly puts him in danger, isn't his voting record or his depression.
It's his secret.
It's his secret. He's a closeted homosexual.
And we have to remember the context of the era this is set in. For a prominent conservative appointee in Washington, D.C., that would have been a career-ending, life-destroying revelation.
A death sentence.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He is terrified of being exposed. And that terror dictates his entire life, especially his relationship with his security detail.
This is the fatal similarity you mentioned. Rosenberg rejects security out of arrogance and ideology. Jensen
runs from security out of fear and shame. He plays this constant cat-and-mouse game with the FBI agents who are supposed to protect him. He doesn't see them as protectors. He sees them as stalkers.
He's paranoid. They're spying on him, trying to dig up dirt to out him.
Exactly. So he has this routine. He has his FBI detail drive him home to his apartment building. He makes a show of going inside. He waits for them to park their car and get settled for the night.
And then he slips out the back.
Then he slips out a service entrance in the back of the building. He puts on a disguise, a hat, sunglasses, changes his coat, and he just vanishes into the D.C. nightlife.
And where does he go?
He goes to the places where he can be anonymous. The source mentions adult theaters, gay cinemas, seedy bars, these dark, anonymous spaces where he can drop the persona of Justice Glenn Johnson and just be himself for a few hours.
But in seeking that anonymity, he's creating this perfect window of vulnerability. The safety net is completely gone.
He makes himself invisible to his protectors, which, of course, makes him completely visible to anyone who has been watching him, studying his patterns, and it's very clear that someone was watching.
Let's talk about that someone, the assassin. The documents are very clear. They give him a name, or at least a code name. Khamel.
Khamel. It's a name that, in these intelligence circles, is basically a ghost story. He's not some street-level thug or a political fanatic. He's a top-tier international contractor for hire.
The file on him is terrifying. Wanted in 9 countries for terrorism, assassinations.
He's the prime suspect in the bombing of a British ambassador's car. There was an attempt on the Pope that they think was his work. But the defining characteristic of his work is that it's invisible. He leaves no trace.
And nobody even knows what he looks like.
He's a chameleon, a ghost. He changes his face, his posture, his accent, everything for each job. And the way he enters this story, the way he arrives in the United States, it feels like something out of a spy movie.
It's so cinematic. It's midnight. Some deserted, rotting pier on the coast of North Carolina.
And he doesn't fly into JFK with a fake passport. He comes silently out of the ocean on a black rubber raft.
Dressed as an old farmer.
Yeah. Bib overalls, work boots, chewing tobacco, staining his teeth. He meets his driver, a local guy named Luke. And that brief interaction tells you everything you need to know about Khamel's method and his aura of menace.
Luke is absolutely petrified of him, and there's one rule, and it's not to be broken.
No eye contact. It's a
Right.
command. And it's not just about intimidation. It's about discipline and efficiency. Khamel knows that if Luke sees his real face, Luke becomes a loose end, a liability that has to be eliminated later. By enforcing the no eye contact rule, he's actually, in a cold way, sparing Luke's life. It's all just business.
And the business pays extremely well. The contract is for $10 million.
That figure just, it changes everything. $4 million wired up front before he even leaves for the States. $3 million wired to a new account the moment he lands. and the final $3 million on completion of the job.
A $10 million price tag tells you this is not a random hate crime. This isn't a lone nut.
No, this is a corporate-level transaction. This is geopolitical. Whoever hired Khamel has incredibly deep pockets and is expecting an astronomical return on their investment. It's about changing the course of history, and they've budgeted for it.
So he gets to D.C., he checks into a hotel, and he sheds that farmer disguise. The first thing he does is check his bank balance.
He confirms the $3 million wire has arrived. He's a professional checking on a payment. And then, and this is the detail that I found the most chilling part of his entire profile, he doesn't start prepping his weapons or doing last-minute surveillance.
He picks up the phone and orders a wake-up call. And then he goes to sleep.
I'm so glad you picked up on that. To me, that is the most terrifying thing about him. Think about the state of mind you'd have to be in. You're about to assassinate two of the most powerful men in the country. Most people would be, I don't know, a wreck. Pacing, sweating, throwing up from the adrenaline and the fear.
But Khamel just takes a nap.
It's a level of detachment that's almost inhuman. It's psychopathic efficiency. For him, this isn't some monumental, historic act of violence. It's a job on his schedule. And like any professional, he knows he needs to be well-rested to perform at his best.
He treats mass murder with the same calm practicality that a surgeon treats an operation. It's just a procedure.
Let you rest, do the work, collect the pay.
So let's walk through the work. Let's break down the timeline of that night, because it's a masterclass in brutal logistics. He's got two high-profile targets in two completely different parts of the city. And he knows he has to hit them both before the first body is discovered and the city goes into lockdown. He starts with what should have been the harder target, Justice Rosenberg. The time is 10 p.m. The location is Rosenberg's quiet, wealthy townhouse in Georgetown.
And Khamel is already inside the house when the clock strikes 10. He's been hiding for hours in an upstairs closet. He knows the routines of this house better than the people who live in it. He knows that the guard, Ferguson, arrives at exactly 10 o'clock.
So he's in position. And his disguise, again, it's brilliant. He's not dressed like a ninja in all black.
No, he's Khamel the jogger.
Right.
Yeah.
He's wearing color-coordinated royal blue running shorts and a white shirt with blue trim. He's even got a blonde wig on. He looks like every other affluent, fitness-obsessed person in Georgetown.
It's the perfect urban camouflage. If something goes wrong and he has to flee, he doesn't look like a fleeing assassin. He just looks like a guy out for a late-night run. Nobody would look twice.
He moves silently through the house. He goes downstairs. The weapon is a .22 automatic pistol.
Fitted with a silencer, of course. And he has it wrapped in an ace bandage around his waist, under his shirt, to break up the outline. A .22 seems like a small caliber, but professionals prefer it for jobs like this. It's very quiet.
And the bullet often doesn't exit the skull, right?
Exactly. It tends to ricochet inside the cranium, causing massive internal damage. It ensures a kill with minimal external mess and, most importantly, minimal noise.
He gets to the study. He sees the male nurse, a man named Frederick, asleep in a recliner.
Without a moment's hesitation. Pop, pop, pop. 3 rounds to the temple. The nurse is dead before he even registers what's happening.
Then he turns to Justice Rosenberg, asleep in his hospital bed, the oxygen machine hissing beside him.
And again, there's no drama. There's no political speech. He doesn't wake the justice up to deliver a message. He just clinically puts 3 rounds into the 91-year-old man's head.
And then he waits. That's another one of those chilling details. He doesn't run.
He stands perfectly still in the silent room for 1 full minute. He watches the bodies. He's listening for any sound, any final breath. He is confirming his work. That level of patience, of cold calculation, is what separates him from an ordinary killer. He is never in a rush.
Okay, so 2 people are dead inside. But he still have the problem of the guard, Ferguson, who's now sitting outside the back door.
And this is where he uses psychology as a weapon. He doesn't try to sneak past Ferguson. He doesn't engage in a shootout on the lawn.
He lures him in.
He walks to the back door, flips on the patio light, opens the door, crack, and just calls his name. Ferguson. In a quiet voice.
And Ferguson, hearing his name, just walks right in.
Why wouldn't he? He assumes it's the nurse. Maybe the justice needs help being moved. Maybe they want to offer him a cup of coffee or play a hand of cards to pass the time. His guard is completely down.
He walks into the kitchen.
And Khamel is waiting. 3 more shots. Ferguson is dead.
So now you have 3 bodies in the house. And all of this has happened in complete silence. And just 50 feet away, on the street.
The 2 FBI agents assigned to the protective detail are sitting in their car, completely oblivious. They're probably complaining about the shift, reading the sports page. They have no idea that the man they are assigned to protect has been dead for several minutes. They are, for all intents and purposes, guarding a morgue.
It's a catastrophic failure of a security system that focuses only on the perimeter, not realizing the threat is already inside the house.
It was a system designed to stop the screaming mob, not the silent professional.
So hit number 1 is complete. It was clean, efficient, and looks for all the world like a professional assassination. Now, Khamel has to pivot. He has roughly 2 hours to get across town for hit number 2.
And the entire environment, the entire methodology changes completely. We go from a pristine, multi-million-dollar townhouse in Georgetown to the Montrose Theater.
Which is described as this incredibly seedy, rundown gay porn theater in a sketchy part of downtown D.C.
Right. The source gives you these sensory details. The floors are sticky. The air smells of stale popcorn and disinfectant and urine. It's a grim place.
And the noise, that's a key detail. The movie that's playing is loud and violent. It's described as an orgy taking place on a yacht during a hurricane.
Which is perfect for his needs. The sound of the storm and the chaos in the movie provides complete audio cover for what he's about to do. And Khamel, of course, has transformed again. The jogger is gone.
Now he's Khamel the homosexual.
He's wearing tight jeans, a silk shirt, a single earring, even a fake mustache. He looks like he belongs there. He blends in perfectly with the handful of other men in the dark theater.
He goes up to the balcony and spots his target. Justice Jensen, trying to be inconspicuous himself.
Jensen is hiding in plain sight. He's wearing a fedora pulled down low, sunglasses even in the dark theater, eating popcorn by himself. He's completely isolated.
Khamel takes a seat directly behind him, but he doesn't pull out the silence .22. He changes his weapon.
Which is a brilliant move. He uses a garrote, specifically a length of yellow nylon ski rope with a 6-inch steel rod threaded through loops at the ends to act as a handle.
It's so much more brutal, so much more personal than a gun.
It is, and it's a deliberate choice. He waits for the movie's soundtrack to reach its peak, the height of the hurricane scene. He loops the rope over Jensen's head, gets it under the chin, and then wrenches back with all his strength, using the top of Jensen's seat for leverage.
The source says the neck snaps instantly, a clean break.
But he doesn't stop there. This is a key detail. After the neck is broken, he continues to twist the steel rod, tightening the rope like a tourniquet until it bites deep into the flesh and causes significant bleeding around the wound.
Why? Why do that? The man is already dead. Why make it so messy when the first hit was so clean?
It's about narrative warfare. It's about confusing the investigation. Think about it. If 2 Supreme Court justices are found dead on the same night, both killed with 3 precise shots to the head from a silenced .22.
It screams professional hit. It screams conspiracy. It connects them instantly.
Exactly. But if one is killed that way and the other is brutally strangled and left bleeding in a seedy gay porn theater, it muddies the waters.
It makes the second one look like a hate crime, or maybe a robbery that went wrong, or a crime of passion, a lover's quarrel. It suggests a struggle, something personal and messy and unplanned. It doesn't look like a $10 million corporate hit. It forces the police to ask, are these 2 murders even related? And while they're asking that question, while they're wasting those first crucial 24 hours.
Khamel is on a flight to Paris, his job complete, his final payment secured. He essentially hacked the police investigation before it even began. He gave him a puzzle to solve instead of a clear lead to follow.
That is masterfully deceptive. The level of foresight is incredible.
He's not just a killer, he's a strategist.
So, the deed is done. The assassin is gone. The city is about to wake up to an unprecedented crisis. But before we get to the political fallout in the White House, the source material takes this interesting detour. It briefly shifts the focus all the way to New Orleans.
To a law school classroom at Tulane University.
And I think this scene is really important because it bridges the gap between the bloody reality of the murders and the abstract legal reasons why they happened. It establishes the stakes. It does. It takes us out of the thriller for a moment and reminds us this is about the law. The scene introduces us to 2 key characters. Thomas Callahan, this cool, brilliant, alcoholic, constitutional law professor, and his star student, who also happens to be his lover, Darby Shaw.
And the topic of their class discussion that day is that very same case we talked about earlier, Nashville, New Jersey.
Rosenberg's lone dissent.
Exactly. And the classroom conversation just reinforces how singular, how unique Rosenberg's voice was. Callahan is explaining to his students that Rosenberg stood completely alone on principle. He paints this picture of an intellectual giant who is fearless.
And it really underscores the massive void that his death is about to create. It's not just that one of 9 seats is now empty, it's that a very specific and perhaps irreplaceable kind of judicial philosophy has just been silenced forever.
And Darby Shaw, she's the one in the class who really gets it. She's the sharp one. She immediately sees the implication. She understands that Rosenberg, for all his brilliance, was also the dam holding back a flood of conservative jurisprudence. You replace him with a conservative, and that dam breaks for a generation.
So that scene really clarifies the motive. It's not about personal revenge against an old man. It's a cold, calculated legal strategy. Someone paid $10 million to rig the Supreme Court.
Which brings us, finally and inevitably, to the White House. Because if anyone stands to benefit from an opportunity to rig the court, it's the people who live and work at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
And this is where the story shifts gears again, doesn't it? It goes from being a political thriller to almost a dark, cynical satire.
It really does. We're taken inside the president's bedroom. It's 4:30 in the morning.
The president is woken up with the news of the assassinations. And his reaction is, I mean, honestly, it's nauseating. He's not horrified. He's not grieving. He's annoyed.
He's annoyed that his sleep was interrupted. He's an old, tired man who seems completely detached from the gravity of the situation. But he's not the real villain in this scene.
No. The real monster in the room is his chief of staff, a young, ambitious man named Fletcher Cole.
Fletcher Cole. When he delivers the news to the president, the source material makes a point of telling us he is smiling.
He's smiling as he reports the murder of 2 Supreme Court justices.
Because he's not seeing a tragedy. He's running the political calculus in his head, and he's seeing a golden opportunity. He actually calls the assassinations a perfect crisis.
That phrase is just, it's so chilling. The perfect crisis.
But if you look at it from his purely cynical political perspective, he's
Yeah.
right, and he breaks it down. First, a crisis like this distracts the country. The president's poll numbers have been sagging, the economy isn't great. Now, nobody cares about that. The nation is terrified.
And when people are terrified, they rally around the leader. It's a classic rally around the flag effect. It creates instant national solidarity with the president at the center. Second, and this is the big prize, the legacy. The president now gets to appoint 2 new Supreme Court justices in one fell swoop. That's a once-in-a-generation opportunity to reshape the American legal landscape for the next 40 or 50 years. He can fulfill every promise he ever made to his conservative base. And the third reason, it's perfect.
There's no blame. The administration didn't pull the trigger. They can position themselves as victims of this tragedy just like everyone else. So they get all the political benefits of the crisis with none of the responsibility.
Well, not quite none. They quickly make sure that someone else gets all the responsibility.
And that someone is the director of the FBI, a man named Voiles.
This scene in the Oval Office is just a political mugging. Voiles is dragged out of bed and summoned to the White House. He thinks he's there to brief the president on the investigation.
Instead, he walks right into an ambush. Fletcher Cole and the president, they just unload on him. They need a scapegoat fast. They need someone to blame publicly so that the public's anger is directed away from the White House.
And the FBI is the perfect target. So they decide, right then and there, to destroy Director Voiles' career.
They humiliate him. Cole says that line, "The egg is on your face, Director." They attack him, screaming about the catastrophic security failure.
Voiles tries to defend himself. He tells them the truth, which we, the audience, know is the truth.
He says, "These men refused our protection. They were idiots." He points out that Rosenberg kicked his agents off the property and Jensen deliberately ran away from his detail every night. The FBI can't protect men who actively refuse to be protected.
But the truth is irrelevant to Fletcher Cole.
Completely. The narrative is all that matters. Cole knows that if the president is seen on TV looking angry, if he's seen screaming at his FBI director and demanding accountability, he looks strong. He looks like a leader in command of the crisis.
So they plan to immediately start leaking stories to the press that Voiles is incompetent, that the Bureau is in disarray. They're going to ruin this man's life just to get a bump in the president's approval rating.
They are literally stepping over the still warm bodies of the justices to get to the polling data.
Yeah.
The level of cynicism is just, it's breathtaking.
While the rest of the country is in shock and mourning, the White House isn't grieving. They're already vetting lists of potential nominees. They're celebrating their good fortune.
It's realpolitik at its most brutal. It's
Okay.
the game as it's played at the absolute highest level.
But in the middle of all this political maneuvering, the spinning, there's still that central mystery. Director Voiles says it himself in that meeting. He says, These deaths have to be related.
Of course they have to be. Two justices don't just happen to die on the same night, by coincidence. But from the FBI's perspective, they're stumped. They have how a gun for one, a rope for the other, but they have no who and no why.
There are no suspects.
Khamel was a ghost. He left no forensic evidence. The shell casings are from a common type of ammunition. The ski rope is generic. The only witnesses are the 3 dead men in Rosenberg's house. And the killer himself is already over the Atlantic, drinking champagne in a first-class seat.
So the FBI is chasing shadows, the White House is chasing poll numbers, and the entire country is paralyzed by fear and confusion. And that brings us right back around to the title of the source material we're looking at, the Pelican Brief. Yeah, we've spent this whole time breaking down the murders, the victims, the assassin, the political fallout, but we haven't seen a brief. We haven't heard a single mention of a pelican.
That's the big lingering question mark, isn't it? We know what happened, we know how it happened, but we still don't have the specific motive. Why these 2 men? Why at this exact moment? Who benefits so much that they're willing to write a $10 million check?
Is it really just about politics? Just about shifting the balance of the court?
It feels like it has to be more specific than that. If it were just general politics, there are cheaper and less risky ways to influence the judiciary. The incredible expense, the hiring of an international terrorist, the specific surgical targeting of Rosenberg and Jensen, it all suggests something more targeted.
That there's a specific case, a specific ruling, a specific secret that someone was willing to kill to control.
Exactly. A secret worth $10 million and 2 lives.
And you can't help but feel that the answer isn't going to be found in the FBI labs or the White House strategy rooms. It's going to be found somewhere else.
Probably in that law school classroom in New Orleans.
Darby Shaw, the student. She's the one who's not blinded by politics or procedure. She's the one just looking at the law. And if she connects the dots, if she's the one who figures it out and writes that brief,
then she's just painted a giant target on her own back. She'll be in the crosshairs of the exact same people who hired Khamel.
it really does force you to look at our institutions differently. You see the marble pillars and the monuments, and you hear the speeches, and you think it's all so solid, so permanent.
But this story shows you how fragile it all is. It's just made of people. Old, stubborn, frightened, ambitious people. And all it took to divert the course of American history was one ruthlessly efficient man, a silenced pistol, and a 3-foot length of yellow ski rope.
And $10 million.
And $10 million. Don't forget the money.
This has been a pretty heavy deep dive. We've basically reconstructed a national nightmare. We've seen how arrogance and fear can create vulnerabilities and how quickly political cynicism can devour a tragedy. But the story isn't over. The why is still out there.
The brief is still out there. And until that surfaces, the people who ordered these murders are winning.
Thanks for going on this journey with us. It's a terrifying story, but sometimes, you have to look directly into the darkness to really understand how the light is supposed to work.
Stay curious and maybe double check your locks tonight.
We'll catch you on the next one.